I appreciate your teachers bringing you. I appreciate y'all coming today. Most of y'all, when you were in the middle school, we had the day where I brought in people from different colleges and different careers and stuff, and they talked to you. Sometimes it got a little long, so we're going to keep it shorter, see how that goes. Today I brought in Austin Helms. He's the author of the book called Orientation to Graduation. Some of you have probably read it. I know I have. I know my lovely daughter-in-law has. So if you've had an opportunity to read it, it is really good. The thing I'll tell you, and I'm not going to talk very long, I'm going to let him talk. He's going to talk a lot about experiences in college. You hear a lot of things about college. Sometimes it's stuff I say. The thing I want you to remember is just because you go to college doesn't mean you're going to be the most successful person in the world. All right? College is like everything else. It's an opportunity. So what you do with that opportunity is going to determine the success you have. All right? Some people are going to tell you you're going to go to college and they'll show you figures. You're going to make more money. It can be true. Generally, it can be true. But if you go to college and you do nothing, it's not going to be true for you. All right? When you go to college, every one of you will have a different experience. Some of you will do different things. You'll have a different experience. It's not going to be the same for most of you. So he's going to talk about some of his experiences, his opportunities, and what he's done with them. All right? Most of y'all know my college experience. It was 8 years long. A wife and 2 children. Oh, yeah. But I got through. I got through. I just took the long path. If you learn nothing else from me in these 7 years that I've been the coordinator for this, use withdrawals. Do not just quit going to class. They make a thing called a withdrawal. All right, withdrawal. Because if you just quit going to class, they give you F's. And it takes even longer to get through. But I finished, all right? If you would, please welcome, put your hands together for Austin Helms, author of the book, Orientation to Graduation.
Thank you again, Mr. Allman. I'm thrilled to be here today. And like he said, I'm the author of Orientation to Graduation. But really, I'm just a kid from Valdez, North Carolina. It's a real small town east of here, about 2 hours east of here. But before I begin today, I kind of give you a little glimpse of what my book's about. Really, it's kind of about how it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, how much money you've got. If you want to go to college, you can truly make the most of every single aspect of the college journey. So I'll let her hit the next slide. But before I kind of get into like what all my book's about, I want to tell you guys that I'm just a kid like all you guys. I'm a mama's boy at heart. I love my mom. Actually, this picture was taken in Boone. Hit the next slide. And when I build these presentations, I realized that my mom used to love to take embarrassing photos of me, and I used to love to eat. Still do love to eat. You hit the next one. I played basketball in high school. Played basketball growing up. To this day, I still do play basketball. You hit the next slide. And I used to even own a big green tractor. So hit the next slide. But anyways, I show you all these pictures to let you know that, I'm from a small town like all you guys. I'm just a kid from Valdez. I'm not sure the numbers of Bryson City, but Valdez may be smaller. But I want to encourage you guys that when you take this next step, you're ninth graders, it's going to be, it's really all about, like Mr. Alm was saying, about what you do with those opportunities. So hit the next slide. And right before I graduated from high school, I was this kid from Valdez, North Carolina, but I was eager for opportunities in the sense of I knew there was a huge world out there. I knew I wanted to travel. I knew I wanted to be this business person, but I didn't really know how to get there. It almost kind of scared me in a way. So you can hit the next slide. So I graduated in 2012 from a really small town, and the high school was called Drone High School. It was a brand new school. And one more slide. Right before I graduated from high school, I read this book, and it was telling me that I needed to write my goals down, print them off, hang them on my wall, and go after it. and that if I hung them on my wall, I was more likely to actually go out there and achieve those goals. So I wrote goals down. You can hit one more slide of all these random things, and this actually made this goal list about 2 or 3 years older than you guys are, 16, 17 years old. I was super ambitious. You can even see some of the stuff on there. I don't know why I wrote it down, but I did. Like, take your wife on a 10-year anniversary trip. I don't even have a wife yet. Things like start a business, travel abroad, all these different unique things. I really was not even sure how to get there. But so I showed up to Staples. I gave the guy my flash drive. I said, hey, I want you to print this out, laminate it, and I'm going to put it on my walls. And he kind of looked at me funny. To this day, I'm still wondering what he was thinking. But at the same time, I hung these on my wall, and they've kind of followed me and pushed me to this day. So one more slide. So I'm going to let Mr. Allman pick out 3 bold volunteers in the audience. All right, sweet 2. Let's give it up for the volunteers. Give it up. Hit next. All right, you guys can just stay right there. Can you hit him one more slide? All right, so these guys are going to help me do something that they've probably never done before. So don't get nervous. It's not that difficult. But the big thing about setting goals and actually obtaining them is setting actionable steps to get there. So if you want to travel abroad, if you want to travel the world, what does that really mean to you? Do you want to go to England? How much money do you have to have? When do you want to go there? How are you going to get there? Et cetera, et cetera. So actually making steps to get there. But really the first step is to truly write these goals down. So hit one more. So let's give it up for our volunteers one more time. You hit the next slide. So I'm gonna ask these guys a question, and I want you guys to be thinking about it too. It's kind of serious, so like when you guys are writing this down, give me a serious answer. But this question is just something very simple that I ask a lot of students, and the reason I ask them that is because I really want them to think about what they want to do when they grow up. And that might sound kind of weird or kind of like, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you mean? But I truly want you to think. The question is, if you'll hit it, you guys can pop around here if you want to see it. But the question is, if money didn't exist, what would you do when you grow up? So if money didn't matter in the world, what would you do? And so I want you guys to write it down here. Each of you pick up a clipboard, write it down, and just think of something that you would want to do for the rest of your life if money didn't exist. I'm gonna let those guys write it. You can hit the next slide. Tell you guys a little bit of a serious story in my life. So I wear a wristband up here. You can't see it, but it says Team Tina on it. In 2012, my aunt passed away with cancer that she fought for 7 years. She had breast, bone, and eventually liver cancer when she lost the fight. But I don't tell you that sad story, but not to tell you that the reason I tell you that is because my family has kind of continued her tradition, and she was always the most positive person you ever met. You walked in the room, you never knew she had cancer. You walked in the room, she was the captain of what she called the Fun Times team. My aunt was an incredible person. If you hit the next slide. But one of the big things she did, if you ever had a big event in your life, no matter big or small, if you're going to your first dance, if you're going to your first prom, if you're graduating high school, if you were getting engaged, she made you make a sign, put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram. You had to show the world kind of what your big moment was right there in life. And she was all about celebrating the small things and really the big things, just really depending on what was going on in your life. So go one more slide. So I'm gonna, you guys about finished? Not yet. Okay, they're still working. So the reason I ask this question too is because I do believe that if you write your goals down, you truly will obtain them. And the other unique piece about this is that when I was in high school and I wrote these goals down and I hung them on my dorm room wall, I would have friends come in and they would say, "Austin, you have goals." And not many people will actually write down what they truly want to do or actually give a time to think about the things they want to do when they grow up. And I had written these things down, and that also gave folks were able to encourage me, push me, etc. During my time in college, and my goals have changed since then. But I need your guys' help. You guys ready? Okay. All right, they're getting there. Okay, you guys ready? All right, so I need you guys' help. we're going to count to 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and they're going to flip the boards over, and they're going to tell us, they're going to say their name and tell us what they would do when they grow up. I'm hoping they gave us some good answers over here. All right, so I need your help. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Yeah. All right, I need your help. 1, 2, 3, ready? All right, sweet. All right, so, give me your name and what you would do if money didn't exist. Oh,
Jesse. Live in the woods.
all right, so Jesse would live in the woods. Give it up. Sweet. What would you do if money didn't exist?
Watch YouTube all day.
All right, so he'd watch YouTube all day. Let's give it up. All right, sweet.
I'm Brent Jackson.
What's your name?
Walker.
And what would you do if money didn't exist?
I eat food. That's all I do.
All right, let's give it up. Give it up. All right, sweet. You guys are good. Let's give it up for him one more time. All right, you can hit the next slide. All right, so it's kind of a good tie-in to kind of what the next part is about. It's called jump out of your CZ, or jump out of your comfort zone. In a way, they jumped out of their comfort zone because, like a lot of you guys, you have maybe different goals, desires, things you want to do when you grow up, but maybe you might be scared to actually write them down to kind of go out there and do those things. And when you actually go to college, or if you go straight into the workforce or straight into the military, there's going to be a time where you have to jump out of your comfort zone. You guys have probably been going to school with the same people for about 10 years, and it'll continue until when you graduate. And you'll probably be going to school with the same people for 13 years. So I'll let you hit one more slide. So when you get to college, actually meeting people is different and unique. And sorry, did somebody ask something? Did you go to Carolina? I did. Well, there'll be time at the end for questions. Y'all can ask any question you want to ask. But yeah, so when you get to college, you've gone to high school and going to middle school and you're going to elementary school with all these same people. And when you finally get to college and you show up and you're from a small town and you've got 2 people that went to your high school and there's 18,000 undergraduate students, you're like, how am I going to make any friends, or how am I going to make the same quality friends that I made while I was in high school? And I'll tell you this, that during my time in college, I never met more impactful people than I did. And this picture is actually taken during my senior year at a football game. And I show you this picture because I want to share with you that you can meet some incredible people, but you have to jump out of your comfort zone. You have to leave your dorm room. You have to go try new clubs, organizations. And I remember my first day of school, and I remember calling my mom and saying, I don't know how I'm going to meet people. She said, Austin, trust me, you'll meet people. Just just go to class, go get involved, etc. And so I remember introducing myself 50 times the first day, and I maybe remember 2 names. So there's so many folks you can meet in college. I'll let you go to the next slide. And some of these friends even make you jump way, way, way out of your comfort zone. So you'll meet so many different folks that want to do crazy things like jump out of planes. And this is kind of one of the crazy experiences during my time at college. But next slide, please. So you guys got to be quiet. So when I speak to teachers, or when I tell this, teachers kind of look at me funny because I say that in college, almost in the time of life you're in right now, you're probably not married, you probably don't have any kids. It's really kind of this fail-free zone, and you might be looking at me funny. It's like, how can I not fail while I'm in college? Well, there's a high chance you probably can fail an exam. There's a high chance that you might not get into the different club or the different program you want to get into. But at the same time, I will tell you that those things that, the programs I didn't get into, the exams I failed, really shaped my entire college career. They pushed me, they encouraged me to do new things. They encouraged me to continue to step out of my comfort zone. And they actually continue to push me to this day. So you can hit the next slide. And a lot of you folks, you come from this small town. You might be feeling homesick, and you might not know kind of what does it mean to actually leave home, and you keep telling yourself, you know what, I don't want to be around my parents anymore. I just want to leave. I don't want to deal with, listen to my mom, listen to my parents. But I will tell you that everybody gets homesick in some way or some fashion. and I left home for 3 or 4 months. I didn't come home. And I didn't want to talk to my parents. I was having the time of my life. And then I came home for Thanksgiving. So about this time, 5 years ago. And I came home, and then I went back to college. And I remember sitting in my dorm room, and I was just like almost depressed in a way. In a way, it was kind of weird for me because I'd taken advantage so much of my college journey during my first year. And I called my mom, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, I think I just want to quit. I just want to come home. I just want to work in our town." And she said, "Austin, get over it. Like, you've done so many incredible things during your college experience thus far, and you've got to continue to jump out of your comfort zone. You've got to continue to meet new people, because while you're doing that, you're really learning about yourself. And at the same time, all these kind of negative thoughts kind of exit your head. And then the rest is history as far as my college journey goes." You hit the next slide. I got to meet incredible professors while I was in my time at college. And I would tell you guys, if you have great relationship with your teachers right now, I would continue that, because that whole friendship of professors-teacher relationship is something that I will forever cherish. And some of my professors in college will probably be my wedding one day. And so it's just this kind of really cool thing that you get to cultivate relationships while you're in college. These people truly care about you, and they truly care about you right now. And they care about you almost even more because they're in the field that you want to be in when you get to the university of your choice. Hit the next slide. I had a lot of fun in college. So I showed up at basketball games. I wore a banana suit my freshman year. I screamed and yelled for the Tar Heels. You can hit the next slide. I became a tour guide. So I was talking more about like jumping out of your comfort zone and being from a small town. I never had the opportunity to speak to international students. I had never had the opportunity to speak to people from all across the United States. And when I got to UNC, I knew I wanted to become a tour guide. And I knew I wanted to speak to so many students because I had a story to tell, and I had a love for the college I went to. So I became a tour guide. I've spoke to thousands of students like you guys who have aspirations of going to college. Hit the next slide. And I started a business while I was in college with $25 with my buddy. I had 25 bucks. He had 25 bucks. We jumped out of our comfort zone. We started a waterless car wash company. That company ended up, propelling us all across the United States. We presented our business in California, Texas, Atlanta, Charlotte, 2 in Chapel Hill, and it was really the simple business idea that we were passionate about, and we went out and chased it, jumped out of our comfort zone. Ended up getting some pretty cool publicity, made a little bit of money, and at the same time, it's also got me to where I am today. Hit the next slide. And so finally, the final piece of kind of my presentation is really to tell you to live for the oh my moments. It's on my shirt, and that's really just to live for every day, live for kind of the unique things that are going on in your life. So you can hit the next slide. And a lot of you guys maybe have never been out of the country, maybe have not traveled a lot. And it was a lot like I was, from a small town, and I knew that the world was huge. I knew I wanted to go to these places, and during my sophomore year, I actually had a roommate who had lived on 3 continents, and he looked just like me. He lived in Hong Kong, he had lived in England, he had lived in the United States, and at the time, he was living in London, and one day I just simply asked him, I said, "Hey, Nick, what would it take for me to come visit you?" He said, "Well, do you have a passport?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, you need a passport." And then I was like, "What else?" He said, "I need some money to buy a plane ticket, but other than that, you have a free place to stay." So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to get this done. So I went and saved up, got my passport, saved up some more, got a job on campus, saved up, bought a flight, and you hit the next slide. I took my first trip abroad when I was 19 years old and went to London. And once the travel bug bites you, it doesn't quit. You hit the next slide. And I went on a study abroad experience in South Africa. And, being a kid from North Carolina in a small town, going to South Africa was something I'd never have dreamed of. But really it was that simple step of stepping out of my comfort zone one time, and it continued to move on. And South Africa was totally incredible. You can hit the next slide. I went on a safari, and believe it or not, hit the next slide, I swam with these guys. And this is a real picture from our dive. We swam with great white sharks. They were anywhere from 10 to 18 feet long. Hit the next slide. And what the guys would do in the back of the boat, they would chum water. So you're out in the tip of Africa swimming in the water, and they put this cage around you, and they're chumming in the back of the boat, and they're throwing tuna head out in front of the cage, and they're pulling it to the shore, pulling it to the cage. You hit the next slide. And sometimes these sharks would kind of swim towards you, and this one, hit one more, bit the cage. This is a real picture. My buddy snapped this on his GoPro. So incredible stuff. Really, it was just about stepping out of our comfort zone and living for this oh my moment. Hit the next slide. I played a lot of basketball, played a lot of intramural sports. That's the thing about college is that you don't have to be good at anything, and you can try anything. So I played multiple intramural sports that I thought I was good at that I was not. But hit the next slide. And this is kind of I got it. This is back in 2016, and I got a hold of like the whole dabbing phenom, and so you can hit play. So this is during one of the basketball games. So we'd show up early, we'd stand in the freezing cold, and we'd go and scream our heads off during basketball games. But really, again, living for these oh my moments, the ups and the downs. Hit the next slide. So finally, I want to tell you guys is that whether you're going to college or not, whether you're going to a 2-year school, a 4-year school, you want to go straight into the military, straight into the workforce, that it's really all up to you if you're going to make the most of it. If you're going to go into the military, do you want to become the next general? What do you truly want to do when you graduate? And these are things, as a 9th grader, you might be like, why do I need to think about these things? But I'm telling you that your college experience starts pretty much in 9th grade because you're preparing to get to that college, and then the day you move in is when like your next career begins. So it's really about preparing kind of for what's next. Hit the next slide. So I want to thank again Mr. Allman and the Gear Up program and all the teachers that are here because whether you guys know it or not, they're very, very special people, and they got me to where I am today. So let's give it up for them. Come on. Next. Yeah, the next slide. All right, so don't forget, next slide, that you guys need to dream big, but do even bigger. Write things down, set your goals, etc. Next slide. Jump way, way, way out of your comfort zone. Every time I jumped out of my comfort zone, I feel like I benefited from it so greatly, even if I fell on my face. Second, next. And then lastly, you've got to live for these oh my moments. Really push yourself. Really just kind of go out there and do anything, and you never know when you're going to say oh my. And finally, keep it. You might be wondering what I'm up to now. So I graduated. I graduated college in 2016 from undergrad. I'm 23 years old, and during my time when I started that business, I actually met my current boss at one of those presentations. He pretty much raised his hand, and we created a relationship back in 2014. He ended up hiring me as soon as I graduated. So I work in Charlotte, North Carolina for a family company. We work a lot with blue-collar businesses in a pretty unique way. So hit the next slide. Keep going, one more. So I'm just a kid like all you guys from a small town, but I had huge ambition, huge drive, and I really wanted to go out there and make the most of college. But one thing too is, next slide, I don't like to wear pants when I bake my cookies. Next slide. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm happy to answer any questions, anything you have. Thank you guys.